Hi, this is Alan from Alpus Group Project Management, talking today about 20 key factors for project success. Key factor 15, stakeholder management. Alpus recommends that the following 20 key factors are addressed to ensure project success. We've been through 14 of these factors. Today we're going to talk about stakeholder management. So key factor 1 to recall was clear and concise project brief, identifying the scope of works, the fundamental design parameters, employers or owners' requirements such as budget, cost, program, time, schedule, specific operational performance requirements and quality requirements. The project or program brief should reflect the vision of the sponsor of the project or program. So on any side, usually you would consider all available options and the category of the use of the land that the site is located on, whether it's agricultural, residential, commercial use. You may have in mind a particular purpose for the building, but the first thing you need to check is that the local planning policy will support such a development. Taking the extreme, you would be unlikely to get approval for an industrial type of development in a residential area. So evaluating all the options, you'd need to look at the necessity to get outline and detailed planning permission unless you have permitted development rights under the Town and Country Planning Order 2015. So you need to have building control permission to carry out all the works, irrespective of whether you need planning permission or not. It's a mandatory requirement. So the risks of the alternative options need to be appraised, especially that related to planning permission, which of course may not necessarily be granted for your development. Deciding on a strategy to proceed, your site may have permitted development rights to change usage from commercial to residential, which would reduce the risks significantly. Once you are clear on whether you have permission to proceed, you can finalise your brief to your design team and contractors. In appraising the job, you need to carry out a risk assessment and contingency calculation so that you cater for all possible eventualities should your planning permission be refused or modified. Basically, you reflect this in the funding for the project. You assess the total detailed breakdown of the costs, the acquisition costs, planning consultants, architectural feasibility and so on, design and consultants costs, construction costs, and then before finalising the budget you need to do a calculation for contingency, which is based on the risk assessment that you've carried out in the previous step. So in this example, we've calculated 150,000 budget for contingency within the overall budget of 1.135 million. Key factor 4, the site must be available and accessible. So to make the site available to your contractor, you must have legal ownership of the site, or alternatively legal permission to develop the site from the owner. For the contractor to be able to start work, you must give him possession of the site, and the site must be accessible to the contractor, i.e. he needs to be able to get his materials, plant and machinery and labour resources onto the site. Phased access is possible if it's not possible to secure the sites all at once, but bear in mind that if you fail to grant access by the due date that's agreed for the phased access, then you may incur claims from the contractor for delays and resultant costs. There are reference to a couple of case studies which we'll return to later. You do not need to have legal ownership of the site in order to seek planning permission for the development. You may choose to take out an option to purchase the particular site. This gives you the right to buy the site at a predetermined price, but you're not obliged to purchase the site. So for the contractor to be able to start work, you must be able to give him possession of the site with the planning permission. You submit your planning application for the development to the local authority, and they've got 56 days in which they are obliged to respond, and they may respond with either approval, conditional approval, or a rejection. Key factor 5, statutory permissions, permitted development. In certain circumstances, you do not need to seek planning permission for development. This can occur where there are permitted development rights to carry out the particular development you're proposing. But for the contractor to be able to start work, you must give him possession of the site with the planning permission. If this is a permitted development right, it could be that you want to convert from C3 residential to C4, except where this is withdrawn in Article 4 areas, or permitted development rights are being granted for the conversion of storage space above commercial retail to 2 flats. Permitted development rights are being granted for the conversion of the rear of the ground floor retail space to residential, subject to adequate access and certain other conditions. Permitted development rights are being given to demolish an office block that has been empty for 6 months or more and rebuilt to the same footprint up to 18 metres high. Check the current permitted development rights and the change of use classes, because they're constantly changing, and some of them are being phased out at the end of July and others are coming in on the 1st of August 2021. So key factor 6 is agreements with neighbours. You may need to have a party wall award with your neighbour if there's a party wall condition. There are possibly way leaves or rights of way across your site which you need to account for. If you've got neighbouring mainline rail or underground lines, then you may be restricted about what work you can carry out at the boundary or method of execution. You may need to put in place agreements with certain of these authorities, and you will probably incur costs as a result of interface with these sort of bodies. Key factor 7, protection or diversion of utilities. If you are going to redevelop your site, you may need to either totally remove or divert certain services, or in certain circumstances protect them. So you need to do this to the satisfaction of the utility company. In certain cases, they will carry out the work for you, but it will usually be at your cost. Key factor 8, advanced or enabling works. It's possible to carry out demolition of existing buildings and services diversions, or removal of services as advanced works, and during the time that this is going on, then you can be progressing the design for the main project. Key factor 9, the contracting strategy. You need to decide on the most appropriate contracting strategy for your project to be executed. Will you, as the employer or owner, undertake the detailed designs, or will you engage a contractor on a design and build basis? Will you carry out some of the works as an advanced or enabling works package? So you need to decide on these sort of issues, so that you've got a plan for the execution of the whole of the design and construction. If there are certain items which are the subject of customer choice or selection, then you need to decide on those options and when is the deadline they must be cleared by. These decisions are the basis for the detailed design, time schedule or master plan for the project. The scope of works for each design consultant and contractor must be decided, as well as their particular plan of work. Alternatively, you may decide to employ a construction manager rather than a main contractor, in which case the contracts need to be formulated between you as the employer and the trade contractors. Key factor 10 is a complete and buildable design. So you may decide to appoint a design team, or on the other hand you may decide to appoint a design and build contractor, in which case your designer will only be needed for the preliminary design and for formulating the employer's requirements. If you have advanced or enabling work, some designs may be needed for that, but whatever happens, you need to have a clear responsibility matrix roles and responsibilities, so that there are no gaps between responsibilities, and all the interfaces need to be managed. As mentioned about the customer choice items, there needs to be a clear timescale when these are required by, and the scope of works for each design consultant and contractor must be decided. Key factor 11, quality assurance and control. All of your designers and all of your contractors need to have quality assurance and control processes and systems in place. So they need to be ISO qualified, and you need to see the certification that is still up to date, and check their systems to ensure that they have the necessary means to control the quality on your project. Key factor 12, building information management and modelling. You will need to decide whether you use BIM on your project. If you employ a design and build contractor, he may take that decision he is going to use BIM, in which case he will ask you certain questions of information that might be needed to set this up. But essentially, BIM enables information to be shared between all the parties, including the client and the end user or operator, as well as the design team and the contractor, and it should enable a more efficient design to be developed for the benefit of the client and end user. Key factor 13, contracts and collaboration. Having decided on whether you're going to go with a traditional arrangement or a design and build arrangement or a construction management arrangement, you can decide on the appropriate forms of contract, JCT forms, NEC forms, design and build standard forms, FIDIC contracts. Essentially, you should ensure that your contracts are all written so that the parties are obliged to collaborate one with another. Key factor 14, health and safety. Every individual within the United Kingdom must comply with the relevant health and safety legislation. You have a duty of care to yourself and other co-workers. And as an employer, you have a duty to provide the necessary resources for health and safety. This is mandatory under the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, under the Management of Health and Safety at Work Regulations 1999, and designers have a duty under the Construction Design and Management Regulations, that's the CDM Regulations 2015. There are also RIDOR, Reporting of Injuries, Diseases and Dangerous Occurrences Regulations 2013. So all your designers, contractors, as well as you as an employer, are obliged, mandated to comply with these regulations. Key factor 15 is stakeholder management. Usually with any project there are many stakeholders, which may include the following: the property owner, that could be you or somebody you represent or interface with, the neighbours, either side, and also in the area, particularly if they share an access, they need to be kept informed about works that are going on, disruption, noise that may occur, and so on. The local authority, especially the planning department and building control, but also the noise control department. In case you get complaints, you want to try and basically manage the situation with the neighbours so that you don't get complaints, and you arrange the work in a manner to be carried out during daytime, and ensure your contractor doesn't carry out noisy work out of hours. Investors in the project, customers if the property is to be sold upon completion, if you're developing a number of houses or flats, statutory utilities, emergency services, police, ambulance, fire, and of course the consultants, the design team, have all got a stake in the project and need to be kept fully informed about what's going on. If you want to know more about this or any other aspects of property development, contact www.alpusgroup.com. We're represented in Hindhead, Surrey, and also in Slovenia. You can contact me, Alan, at alpusgroup.com. My telephone number is +44 7539 141 257. That number's got Skype, WhatsApp and FaceTime. To book a 30-minute exploratory call with me, go to https://calendly.com/AlanJE. If you'd like a free contracts checklist from us, go to the tinyurl.com. The first link will take you to that, or the second link if you want property development training. So that's all for now. Look forward to seeing you in the next video. Cheers.